this storyboard, which we built, signed off by the client, and I want to walk you through how to build some of it. The first thing I noticed that I want to build is this star. So this is their emblem for their brand. Here it is. We can actually export an SVG directly from Figma, and then once we've got that SVG, you literally pull in your SVG. There's my SVG. Pull in your SVG, save as Illustrator file. So now we've pulled this in. We want to open up that composition that's been pulled in of our layer. We want to create that Illustrator layer into a shape layer. Sometimes it pulls in some janky like shapes around it. We just want to go into the contents of that shape and delete it. Once we've got that, we want to create a new composition. I'm going to name that composition the same name as the folder, and let's just take some time to quickly folderize our assets. So we pull this into assets. I'm going to call this Illustrator or AI for short. Pull that into there, put our comp into that one, and then create a pre-comp. So this is where all our lovely assets are going to live in your pre-compositions. So we've got this here we are. So as I showed you, I've got this star shape. I want to copy that layer, and I'm just going to pull it into here. It's already centered up for me because we pulled it in from Illustrator. So the anchor point, fit. Let's just center this. So if we look back at our reference, we can notice that it's this awesome 3D shape. I don't think the colors are correct, but one thing that's definitely cool is the 3D. We can sort the colors out in a bit. So let's increase the size of this shape, pull in a camera. And if you don't know anything about cameras, stay safe. 50mm is like your iPhone. And I'm going to go with 35. Then what we want to do is go to our shape layer and make it 3D. By the way, in your composition settings, you just want to go into a 3D render and turn on Cinema 4D. This is going to give us a lot more control over lighting. It's going to give us a lot more controlling over our materials. So let's open this shape layer. I'm just going to really name it Titan vs Emblem. And let's increase the depth. You probably won't be able to see a lot at this point. Same way I can. But then if we actually rotate it, so if you click on your layer and press R for rotate, easy to remember, telling you how to suck eggs. So we can actually see it's starting to take shape, but there is no definition. So how do we get definition? First things first, we want to pull in a HDR. I've already got one here. I'll drop a download link in the description. Just for clarity's sake, you can actually go to somewhere like Polyhaven and get some of these HDRs, assets, HDRIs, and they'll be in abundance. This one looks pretty cool. It's Polyhaven for Blender Kit. Blender Kit's cool. He does loads as well. So yeah, I'm going to fill in this one. I like this one. I like the brickwork and the texture. So we just want to scale it down so it takes shape of the composition. I'm going to pre-comp this. It will make sense why later. Then we actually want to right-click that composition and make it an environment layer, and still nothing. Great. So if we actually go into our material options on this layer, we can start off with increasing the reflection intensity. This should now start to reflect the environment around it. I'm going to reduce the sharpness because I have a feeling I'm not going to like what I see. And it's very dark. I'm just going to start off with making this layer white. So let's do that. So I'm just going to play around these settings. You guys should as well. Roll off. This should bring in some of that whiteness again. Yeah, that's cool. I'm just going to drop it a little bit. It's too white. This again just means that it's not going to be solid black. it's just going to reintroduce some of those colors. So for example, if I make this red and increase this to 100, it should completely reintroduce that color. If you want that, I don't. I'm going to go back to my white. But one thing, if we go and look back at my reference, it's got reflective purples, and to be true to the brand, you know, this purple gradient, this lovely purple gradient, I'm just going to go and reference these colors. And actually, because I work with this brand quite a lot, if I go gradient, it should already have those colors for me, which it does. So I'm just going to expand this gradient here. If you don't have these blue lines, say you click off it and then you're like, oh no, where's my blue lines? If you just click back on this color, these little lines should pop up so you can redirect it. What I want to do is I want those reflections to reflect some of this brand coloring. So let's just introduce this shape layer, box blur. Box blur is good when you want to render things quickly. Gaussian blur is a little bit more render intensive. We don't have to be too precious. And then if we tab back, we can tab back to our composition. I tab in and out all the time. I'm just going to reshape position some of these. I feel like it's reflecting a little bit too much, that purple. I don't want it to be overbearing. I'm just going to keep on tweaking, keep on playing around with this until I get somewhere where I'm happy with it. It's looking all right for now. We'll definitely go back and play around with it later. I'm just going to go into my geometry options here, and I'm going to use a concave. This is just your bevel options. It's going to be on the edge here. Yeah, it just adds some nice definition. Sort of true to the reference as well. It has this concaved bevel, so that works nicely. Cool, I'm pretty happy with that so far. I'm going to go back to our reference and let's look at what next. So we've got these particles here. I think they're actually supposed to be stars, and I don't think they're supposed to just be blurred. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be glowing. So first off, I'm going to put in a solid black layer. Cool. Background. Let's just rename this background. And let's duplicate that. And then let's call this one stars. So we can just lock off our background layer so we don't mess around with that. Click back to our stars layer. And if you guys haven't got the Maxon plugins, I'm sorry about that. There's ways around getting particles like this, but they're just not going to be as good. I know what's good. I know form. Maxon particles are king, right? It's well worth the investment. It's just so worth it. I use this all the time for clients. Drop form onto that black layer that we've called stars. Let's just drop that straight on there. Then what we want to do is come in here. I'm just going to save at this point because this can be quite intensive. Let's open up a designer. First things I want to do is click on this type. Type is actually referring to the shape the particles are referencing to. So see, if I increase the size, it's not actually increasing the size of the particles, it's moving the particles in 3D space because we're increasing the size of the shape layer that it's referencing. And it's referencing that layer so it knows where to take form. Then if we come over to our particles, by the way, I've budged this size right up to this edge here, just so I know that's the minimum place that these particles will land. I'm going to move over to my particles. I'm just going to increase the feather right up. Again, this gets super up to you with what you want to do. There's loads of different options here, well worth playing around with. I'm going with sphere because that's the that matches my reference. I'm going to now come over to size, and this is where it gets a bit more fun. I'm going to increase the randomness. Go to our opacity, we can increase the randomness of that, just get even less linear. And color, I'm going to stick with white because again, that's my reference. Disperse. let's increase this right up. Mine are supposed to be like stars, so they're light years apart from each other. We just increase this size right up. Now we apply that. We have got particles in 3D space. We've got a 3D object, we've got 3D particles, all in 3D space. Let's just lock it off so we don't play with that. Next, that camera that we built earlier, the reason why we put it in first is so that we can actually see the scene with the camera from the get-go. Because if I switch that camera off, it looks like this. If I switch it back on, that's because of the millimeters that we chose earlier. So if I was to choose like 50 now, it would punch right back, right forward. I've landed on 28 millimeters, fine. Next, we want to create a camera rig. This is really important for control over your camera. If we were to just move the position, press P by the way to open that, and move this stuff along and rotate here and there, it's going to get super messy really quick, and you'll probably find yourself a little bit lost like this. So what we actually want to do is we want to go here, 2 views. This gives us a top-down view of our scene. Now we want to go to create there, new and null. If we just make this null 3D, I'm going to save again at this point. And we call this null position, and we duplicate that one and call this one rotation. If we drop this above or below our camera, either or. Actually, let's drop it below because the way that I've married it up. Now we want to go P on the camera, get the position of that camera, and paste it onto your rotation and your position. And now we can see that it's perfectly aligned with the camera. Now what we want to do is parent this camera to the rotation. Then we want to parent the rotation to the position. Okay, this just means that we can control our rotation and our position separately. If I open up the 4th view, if I rotate now on an x-axis, I can still click back to my y and it will be perfectly aligned, and I can move up, down, left, right, back and forth, and the rotation of that has not been affected, which will give us full leverage later on. Feel free to do that. Now that we've got this in place, let's look back at our reference. We've got some text. Well, first off, I've actually got this glow at the bottom here, so let's just create a quick glow. I'm going to go back to my shape there. I've got the fill as a gradient already there. I'm actually going to change this though, and I'm going to change it to a radial gradient and increase this. So let's see how this looks. Yeah, great. So this is radiating from the middle out. Our colors, light pink to dark purple. Now I'm going to drop this layer. Let's call this glow, purple glow, BG glow, purple BG glow. And let's add a fast box blur here. Make sure our purple background glow is actually behind our emblem. I'm going to drop that straight onto that layer. Bring our layer down about here. And now let's just start increasing that radius till we get somewhere that we like. Size for me is just a bit too big. I'm just going to reduce that down a bit. See how we're looking? Yeah, real nice. Cool. I'm just going to open up the width there a bit. We're looking good. I think we're looking good. Maybe it needs to feel a bit more hotspotty, look. See, there's a bit more of a hotspot around there. No, this one does look quite natural though, but what you can do is just duplicate that. Go 250, so half the amount of blur. And yeah, Cool. I'm actually going to reduce the opacity a little bit. I'm going to just drop down the fast box blur a little bit. And let's go 15. See how this looks? I think that's close. It's close. Bit of a different purple, but I think that I prefer this purple, and you can take creative licenses as long as you're using a client's brand colors. All right. I'm just gonna close this off a little bit. So we got a bit more of a vignette around the edges there. Great. All right. I think we're in a good place. We want to probably add in this text. So we've got everything you need for pharmacy services. Okay, let's just drop that in verbatim. I already know what font this is. This is SF Pro Semi Bold. Again, this is their brand guidelines. The text is a bit big for me, so I'm going to drop it down. Let's see the kerning. How's the kerning looking? That's a bit, and the kerning is at 0. I think we can increase that. This will increase the space in between each letter. I think 10's probably a good place. Just want to give people opportunity to actually read this, and it's a bit too close together. People might struggle. So cool, we've got that in place. And think about how it can animate. Let's see, this star is moving. Is it going to be coming in? And then maybe the star is what reveals the text. And I'm actually going to take this opportunity to animate it. We could actually do what we did with the camera on this shape. And so that we can, yeah, I'm going to do that quickly. I'm just going to get these two and drop them below our emblem and call this rotation emblem and call this position emblem. Okay, and then I'm going to press P on our emblem and copy and paste the position of that to the rotation and the position, so they're in the same place. Now we parent the emblem to the rotation and the rotation to the position. Okay, now when we move the position, everything should move with it, even the rotation. So now our rotation's here. Cool. Yeah, nice. How do I want this to come in? I think I want it to zip in from the bottom. See how now I can take my position and just snug it on over there without having too many issues, right? So let's start with pressing P on our emblem position. This is our starting frame. Okay, I'm actually going to just pull up my text so I can reference where it exists and drop my text below my emblem. And then I'm going to go back to my position here of the emblem and maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What I'm doing there is pressing Command and the arrows over for 10 frames. And then let's position him there. Let's get our main positions in place first. Yeah, that's cool. Up there. Now we've created 2 keyframes. Let's see how this moves over. I'm going to drop my quality so it's not too render intensive. Yeah, this is the only problem with using Cinema 4D. And a workaround that, if your computer's not great, is actually turning off your environment layer and going into your emblem, and for now just adding a light and making that a point light, ambient light. Make that an ambient light if it wanted to work. And go into our materials. And for now, I think I'm just going to reduce my metal to 0. Increase the roll off. There you go. So I changed the metal back to 100 where it was originally, and then I've increased the roll off to 100. I might just do it at 50. Now we can actually see, and we can work with this without it being too intensive, because I appreciate that not everyone's computers are that great, a bit like mine when I'm filming or recording. So cool, he moves from there to there. Looks pretty boring right now. What we can do is, if we actually zoom out, make this immediately a little bit more interesting by selecting our pen tool, selecting our layer which has this keyframes on, and just grabbing these points and adding in a little swoosh. So he'll come in, he'll go up like that. Okay, so you're going to just decrease the size of this emblem a little bit. So he comes in like that. So, and what I might do is increase the space of his keyframes so it comes in a little bit more subtly, slowly. Cool. So that's our position 1 and position 2. Now if we press R on our rotation, if we go back to our first keyframe and lock off all of these rotations here, we can go bang on that over here and change our rotation. Okay. Get into a position you like. Now when it comes in, it will actually rotate as we go along. And if we highlight all of our layers and go easy ease, so it will smoothly take into position. Cool. The next thing is making this just a little bit more interesting. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, again holding command and clicking forward with your arrows, and if we add a keyframes for the rotation and position here, and then we go back to our middle ones, we can see it's overshooting there. So a quick workaround on that is, what's happening is that lovely curve that we put in, you need to select this frame and hold Option or Control, I believe, Command or Control on Windows, and just put in this keyframe. That's why it's overshooting. There you go. Now it shouldn't overshoot. Or it actually does a little bit, but I quite like that. And that's actually what we're about to do next. So if we just pull him over like this and increase some of that rotation, pulling it the other way from where it lands, it will overshoot now. Okay, cool. See how it goes, bang, and then into position. And actually we highlight all of these end frames and hold Control or Command and click on that and make it linear. I've got this expression here, which I, again, will leave somewhere for you guys to use yourselves. This expression is one that I use all the time in instances like this. It's amazing. So press Option and click your stopwatch on each position or rotation and just paste in this expression. I'll show you what it does. So now it just, you see how it just falls into position and just does that little wobble there. It feels a little bit more natural. The only thing I don't like now, looking at it, is just the fact that it just stays still. It doesn't do anything once it's taken shape there. So let's close all these off. Let's open up our emblem rotation, and maybe when he gets into this position, he just slowly rotates back there. So let's see how this looks. Ooh. Yeah, cool. So there's always motion. Let's have a dull moment. Great. Now what we might want to do is, how do we transition this text in? So we know it goes from there to there. First things first, what I'm going to do is highlight all my text with a mask layer. Okay. Then we want to go into this mask path and go to the end as well when the star has fully got past it. Yeah, great. And then go back to that first keyframe that we made and close it off like this. Let's increase the feather. There you go. Now, somewhat, it looks like it's revealing it. This can definitely be elevated though. What we want to do is actually pre-compose this text 1 we'll call it. And if we go into this layer and we change this composition settings, 3D render it to classic. So the reason why we have to pre-comp that is so that we're not disrupting the Cinema 4D within this one. To take it one step further, I'm just going to make this 3D and then let's duplicate it, pre-comp it, and call this text 1 particle ref. Okay, we go into here, and what we want to do is we want to select our layer, press U to reveal our keyframes. And what we actually want to do is we want to go to the end here, this last keyframe. We want to select these points and move it right over to the edge here. Now what this would do is create this effect. Okay, then we want to create a box layer and add any color. I'm using their brand colors. Drop that below. And then if we press toggle switch at the bottom here, we can get this map. Cool. So now it has this color, which helps reveal the text like this. Great. Now, this is a particle reference as well. I'm going to leave it like this because I actually like the colors over it. But what it's really for is for us to particles, is to create these particles. If we actually make this 3D as well, like that, and add Trapcode Particular to this particles layer, unhide this layer, go to designer. Okay, doesn't look like a lot right now, but if we go up to emitter type, add layer, we can now use that layer under layer emitter, text particle ref. Okay, there we go. Not getting a lot right now, but it will make sense in a minute. Okay, what we want to do is we want to increase the amount of particles. I'm going to go to somewhere I've seen. Yeah, so it doesn't look at the layer right now, it's just giving us a bit of a reference of what the particles are doing. I'm going to increase the velocity to 200. I want it to go a lot faster. Great. We can actually increase the random velocity so they all move at different paces. It makes it less linear. We can increase the lifetime, and that will basically mean that it will draw them out. They will go a lot further. Okay, I'm going to increase random lifetime. And then you'll notice as well, the colors are actually matched up to the layer reference as well. Now, size and rotation. Size, let's increase the randomness of the size and drop the size because I don't want them to get so big. Just want it to be dainty. Paste opacity, increase the randomness of that as well. Great. Now environment, probably not so important, but this is like wind, gravity. So if I increase the gravity, they should drop. Yep. Yep, cool. And then simulation, flocking. They will follow each other with the flocking on. If we increase traction right up, you'll see they just all collide together. I'm gonna have a bit of flocking, separate, increase that right up, see what happens when we do that. Do you know what? I feel like we need to go back to emitter type and increase the amount of particles per second. Do a little bit of back and forth. I'm going to decrease the attract. I want it to be a bit more random. They're really colliding together now. Maybe we do want a bit of a wind effect going left, so increase the wind. It's the flocking. They're just two. They're two collided. Open that right up. Yeah. I'm going to go back to the environment, decrease that gravity to about 5. This is honestly a bit of play. Once you start to understand what all of these do, I mean, they're quite self-explanatory. So what happens if we increase the air turbulence effect? Hopefully this gives some randomness. Yeah, cool. Let's just drop that though. It's way too much. Let's bring our timeline back. Yeah, that's cool. Right. Looking at that, I feel like the lifetime is just a bit too much, so I'm going to go back into a particle type, reduce that. I can actually go into size and presets and just select the linear slope. That means that they won't just randomly vanish. They will dissipate and get smaller at little embers. Now that we've done that, I'm just going to increase the lifetime to 4. Go to emitter and let's ramp this right up. Double it. Going crazy. Now it should have lots and lots. Or enough. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to add a glow. I've got deep glow. Chuck that on the particles. 0.5. Let's see how this looks. I think their lifetime's just a little bit too long. So just go back into our designer. Make it quarter the amount. Yeah, nice. There we go. Cool. Right, sweet. Okay, then we're just going to tab back. We're left with this. We can animate our star back. So we want to add a keyframe around about here. Add a new position. If we go into our top view, we can pull him right up to the camera. He can swoop past the camera. You can actually see the first point that he can come. And we notice that he's a little bit high up. So we just pull down the Y position, and when he gets to, and then put him right over. What we can do now is we can select our pen tool with this keyframe selected, and should do this, and can do a little bit finicky sometimes. What you want to do is you want to get this frame, and you want to select this frame. You just want to pull this one out here. You know that we're on top view here, so we're pretty safe. And we just pull over, right over left. He comes a little bit high here, doesn't he? So what we can do is actually add another keyframe. He goes down like that, just in between these two. What we can now do is select that first frame, easy use it. Select the next one, easy use that. But one thing that we don't want is, let me show you what happens here. Fit that on screen. Is there's going to be this pause. He's going to get here, whoop, and then he'll pause here. And some people might like that. That's fine. But if we actually just open up these keyframe velocity settings by right-clicking and going to keyframe velocity, or holding Option or Alt and double-clicking that keyframe, you can bring these up. Just like that. That would change these at the same time. But you want to change the speed to 1. Maybe increase the speed a bit more. Or what we could do is open up our velocity graph, which is here, graph editor. And we want to raise this right up here. See how now it just smoothly moves. It doesn't stop, doesn't pause. Okay. If you're not seeing what I'm seeing here, you need to come down to speed, this little nodule here, click that, it'll be on value, and go to speed graph. You can do it in here, but it's a bit more complicated. Speed value, you just raise it up so that it's a smooth motion. Okay, cool. Then we've got this. Cool. What we can do as well is when you get to about here, you can just cut this text by pressing Command Shift D. And then if you delete what comes after, you're left with it vanishing. No need for any fancy masks or anything. It's a match cut, so it does fool the eye pretty well. Great. And then what you could do is actually, if I go to here and get the logo, I'm just going to use a PNG for now, increase the size of that. So add it to my assets, images, Titanverse logo. So what you could do at this point is maybe I'm going to use the logo for this company here. Maybe pop it there. Drop this down below, just above your text. And just grab the end there and just cut it off to the end. Hold Shift so it clips on neatly. So now, when we go out, you can do this. And you've got a logo reveal. Everything you need for pharmacy services. Titanverse. These particles in the background are pretty boring and it'd be quite nice if they were moving. So if we select just stars, and then if you go to Effect, Form, if you go to Effect, Form, Forms, and under Particle Base, you can actually create a null. Let's do that. We'll create this null here. Let's drop him just above stars. And we can add a rotation. Let's see what happens. I think I'm going to rotate them on the y-axis, just really subtly, just so we can add a little bit of motion in. Now, these particles are always moving and they're never still. Could actually increase it a little bit more. And if I do my Alt or Option click on here and do time, loop, out, offset. Now they will continuously rotate around like this. Great. And now I just want to add a deep glow onto these particles here. Drop down the exposure, drop down to 250. Great, there we go. Now the last thing that we want to do, just so that we can get those lovely reflections back on our emblem, is we actually want to go back into our emblem. You want to reduce your ambience down to 0, and then you want to switch back on your studio layer, and this should now have that lovely material that we created on there. Guys, I hope you appreciate this, learning a little bit about 3D and particles. I use this all the time in my client work. It just helps elevate my projects and make it feel a little bit more professional. I hope you get the opportunity to use it. If you want more content like this, just let me know in the comments. And if you want support on anything, if you want some of these downloadables, or if you want some of the textures that I use, again, just let me know in the comments and I'll make an effort to drop it in the description. Thanks.